Good day, I'm Engineer Rubiano, your Chemistry for Engineers instructor. Today, I will introduce basic concepts of chemistry. The following will be our objectives. First, let us define chemistry. So, chemistry is known as the central science, meaning it is important to many other sciences. For example, in biology, we study different body systems such as digestive system. And we know that in our stomach, there are several types of chemicals. And those chemicals are considered as matter. And chemistry is the study of matter, its properties, the changes it undergoes, and the energy changes that accompany those processes. What is matter nga ba? Matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. It has three states or phases, which are solids, liquids, and gases. So, iisa-isahin natin yan, starting with solids. Solids do not change shape easily, and they do not change shape when placed in a container. So, for example, here in this picture, we have a block of wood placed in a container. And we can notice na hindi siya nagbago ng shape. Bakit? Let us look at the molecular level. We can see na very compact yung kanyang mga molecules. Meaning, it has strong forces of attraction, kaya na-maintain niya yung kanyang shape. Then we have liquids. Liquids adapt to the shape of the container, and it may not fill the entire volume of the container. For example, we have a liquid. So, si liquid, tinransfer natin siya sa container. Mapapansin natin, nung tinransfer siya sa container, ginaya niya yung shape ng container. Pero, hindi niya napuno. Bakit? Because the molecules of liquid are somewhat loosely packed. Kaya, nagagaya niya yung shape ng container. However, it is strong enough to hold the molecules together. Lastly, we have gases. They adapt to the shape of the container and expands to occupy the whole volume of the container. So, for example, we have a gas and tinransfer natin siya sa container. Mapapansin natin na si gas, nasakop niya yung buong container and nagaya niya yung shape. Paano niya nagagawa yon? So, when we look at the molecules of gases, mapapansin natin that they are very far apart from each other. Kaya yung forces of attraction na humihila dun sa mga molecules together is very low. Next, we will proceed with the properties of matter. Let's begin with physical properties. Those which the substance shows by itself without interacting with another substance. Ibig sabihin, kahit hindi natin siya ikumpara sa ibang bagay, makikita natin itong properties na to. Examples are density, color, and length. For example, we have a banana. Kahit hindi natin siya i-compare with another substance, alam naman natin na ang color niya will be yellow. Another is chemical properties. Those which the substance shows as it interacts with, transform into other substances. Examples are reactivity and flammability. So, for example, we have sulfuric acid. Hindi natin malalaman yung kanyang reactivity if you will not compare it with another substance, such as water. We also have extensive properties. Those affected with the amount of substance. Affected, ibig sabihin, naapektuhan ng dami ng substance. Examples are mass, volume, and energy. Another example natin is weight. So, paano naman natin titignan si weight as extensive property? So, for example, meron tayong chalk. Kapag tinimbang natin si chalk, makikita natin yung kanyang weight. And kapag pinutol natin siya, yung weight niya, panigurado, mababawasan din. So, yung mga properties na to, kapag dinadagdagan natin or binabawasan yung isang substance, nagbabago din yung mga extensive properties. Lastly, we have intensive properties. Those not affected with the amount of substance. Not affected. Ibig sabihin naman, kahit bawasan or dagdagan mo yung isang substance, hindi siya magbabago. Examples are temperature and density. Another is boiling point. Paano naman naging intensive property si boiling point? For example, we have a droplet of water and a pail of water. They have different amounts. Pero, yung boiling point nila are the same, which is 100 degrees Celsius. So, para mas maintindihan natin yung iba't ibang properties ng matter, tignan natin yung illustrative example. So, meron daw tayong 500 ml glass of water. Tignan natin ngayon yung kanyang mga properties. So, una, physical property. So, titingnan daw natin yung kanyang color. And alam naman natin na si water, kahit hindi natin siya ikumpara with another substance, yung kanyang color is colorless. And then, we have the chemical property. So, titingnan natin yung kanyang flammability. So, if we compare it with another substance, malalaman natin na si water is non-flammable. And then, we have the extensive property. So, titingnan naman daw natin yung kanyang volume. And sabi dito, yung kanyang volume is 500 ml. So, 500 ml. So, pag binawasan natin si water, mababawasan din yung kanyang volume. And then, we have the intensive property, which is density. So, si density, kahit bawasan natin ng bawasan si water or dagdagan siya ng dagdagan, yung kanyang density will remain 1 gram per ml. Aside from properties, matter also undergoes changes. And there are two types of changes in matter. The first one is physical change. It occurs when substance alters its physical form but not its composition. For example, we have crushing a can. Kapag niyupi natin yung lata, magbabago lang yung itsura niya. Pero, gawa pa rin siya sa metal. And pwede natin siyang ibalik sa kanyang original form by stretching. So, yun yung tinatawag nating reversible change. Kapag pwede natin siyang ibalik sa dati niyang itsura. Another example is melting an ice cube. Basically, si ice cube is just solid water. And kapag nagmelt siya, magiging siyang liquid water. So, ang nagbago lang is yung kanyang state or phase. And yun yung tinatawag nating phase change. And kapag si liquid water nilagay natin sa freezer, magiging solid ice ulit siya, which is also a reversible change. Ibig sabihin, kaya niyang bumalik sa original form. The next one is chemical change. It occurs when a substance undergoes chemical reactions and is converted into a different substance. An example is iron rusting. So, si metal, kapag nagkaroon siya ng kalawang, yung kalawang na yun, iba na yung composition niya as compared with the metal. Si kalawang, pag tinignan natin siya, it is combined na with water. And hindi na siya mako-convert pabalik into metal. And iyon yung tinatawag nating irreversible change. Kapag hindi na natin siya maibabalik into its original form. Another example of chemical change is burning of wood. So, pag sinunog natin si wood, magiging na siyang abo or ash. And hindi mo na siya maibabalik ulit into a hard, solid na wood. Now, we will move on to the components of matter, or yung mga particles na makikita natin if we look at matter on a molecular level. First, we have atoms. They are extremely small, indivisible particles, or yung mga particles na hindi mo na pwedeng i-divide. Siya na yung pinaka-maliit. We also have elements, which are the simplest type of substance. Sila yung makikita natin sa periodic table, and they consist of only one type of atom, and they cannot be broken down into simpler substances by physical or chemical means. Some examples are hydrogen, chlorine, and oxygen. Another is molecule, which is consist of two or more atoms that are chemically bound together, thus behaves as an independent unit. An example is chlorine. Dalawang atoms sila and are bound together, thus behave as an independent unit. Another is water. So, meron tayong dalawang hydrogen and isang oxygen that are bound together and they form water molecule. Ano naman yung difference ni molecule with compound? When we say compound, it is composed of two or more elements which are chemically combined. So, meron tayo ditong chlorine at saka water. Pwede ba natin i-consider si chlorine as compound? The answer is no. Dahil iisang type lang ng element yung meron siya. It is a molecule but not a compound. Unlike water, if we look at its composition, we have hydrogen and oxygen. So, meron siyang dalawang elements and they are chemically combined. So, it is both a molecule and a compound. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng compound ay molecule, but not all molecules are compound. And the last component is mixture. It is a group of two or more elements and or compounds that are physically intermingled. So, kapag nagsama-sama na yung mga elements, yung mga molecules, and yung compound, tinatawag na yun na mixture. We also have fundamental particles, or ito yung mga composition ng ating mga elements. Meron tayong tatlo, which are electron, proton, and neutron. So, dun muna tayo sa electron. So, it is represented by E- dahil siya ay negatively charged particle or meron siyang negative 1 na charge. It was discovered by Joseph John Thomson. Then we have proton. It is represented by P or P+, dahil siya ay positively charged particle. Yung kanyang charge is positive 1. It was discovered by Ernest Rutherford. And lastly, we have neutron. It is represented as N or N0. Ibig sabihin, it has no charge or it is a neutral particle. And it was discovered by James Chadwick. Saan ba natin magagamit yung mga fundamental particles? Basically, they are found in the periodic table. Pero paano natin sila makikita sa periodic table? Let us look at the element representation. So, sa periodic table, makikita natin yung ganitong format. Pero ano ba yung ibig sabihin nito? So, tignan natin siya isa-isa. So, first we have the X. So, yung X, ang ibig sabihin niya is element. Ito yung nakikita natin sa periodic table. For example, meron tayong hydrogen, which is represented by H. So, ipapalit natin kay X is H. And then we have the mass number, or represented by A. Siya yung number na nasa taas. Ang formula daw ni mass number is Z plus N. Pero ano yung ibig sabihin ng Z at ng N? So, si Z daw is yung number na nakasulat sa baba. Or siya daw yung tinatawag na atomic number, or the number of protons in the nucleus. And then we have N. Si N naman daw is yung number ng neutron sa nucleus. So, ibig sabihin, si mass number is the total number of protons plus the neutrons. We also have what we call the isotopes. So, isotopes are atoms of the same element but with different number of neutrons. For example, is yung hydrogen. So, may mga elements tayo na same yung number ng protons, pero iba yung number ng kanyang neutrons. So, ang nagiging effect, nagkakaiba-iba sila ng mass number or yung kanilang A. Mapapansin ninyo yung mga mass number ng hydrogen dito, magkakaiba dahil nag-iiba yung number ng kanyang neutrons. Now, let us practice writing element representation. We have carbon with 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Paano natin isusulat yung kanyang element representation? So, una, yung element daw natin is carbon, which is represented by C. So, sulat natin. And then, we have to compute for Z. So, yung atomic number or yung number of protons in the nucleus. And sabi sa problem natin, meron siyang 6 protons. So, yung kanyang Z is 6. Sulat natin siya sa ilalim. So, we have 6. So, ang nawawala na lang is yung kanyang mass number or yung letter A. So, bago natin makuha si A, kailangan alam muna natin yung kanyang number of neutrons or yung N. So, tignan natin ilan yung kanyang neutrons. Meron daw siyang 6. Sabi sa problem, meron siyang 6 neutrons. So, para makuha natin si mass number, we will add the number of protons and the number of neutrons. So, meron tayong 6 protons plus 6 neutrons is equal to 12. So, basically, ang mass number daw ng ating carbon is 12. So, siya yung ating mass number. So, that is how we write the element representation. Now, we will move on to ions. Ano ba yung difference nila with atoms? So, when we say ions, they are species with net charge. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng mas marami yung proton niya or mas marami yung electron. They are not equal. However, yung mga atoms, they are considered electrically neutral, meaning that the number of protons and electrons present are equal. So, kapag atoms naman daw, yung electrons niya and protons are equal. So, basically, wala siyang charge. So, let us look at an example of ions. So, meron tayong sodium plus, meron siyang positive charge. Ibig sabihin, mas marami yung kanyang protons. And meron tayong chlorine or Cl-, which is negatively charged. Ibig sabihin, mas marami yung electrons niya compared with protons. Ions can be classified into two categories. The first one is monoatomic ion, which is an ion derived from a single atom. Examples are sodium ion or Na+, and chloride ion or Cl-. Ibig sabihin, iisang atom lang yung pinanggagalingan nila. And then we have polyatomic ion, which is a group of atoms that carry a charge. Ibig sabihin, hindi na iisa lang yung atom na present. So, examples daw are ammonium. Si ammonium, meron siyang nitrogen and hydrogen, and they carry a positive charge. Meron din tayong carbonate na merong carbon and oxygen, and they carry a negative charge. Ions can also be classified as either anion or cation. Ano ba yung difference ng dalawa? So, punta muna tayo kay anion. Anion is a negatively charged ion, and it contains more electrons than protons. An example daw niyan is chloride ion and carbonate. So, ito daw yung ating chloride ion. Mas madami yung kanyang electrons, kaya meron siyang negative charge. So, in naming monoatomic anions, the names of the anion should end with IDE. So, for example daw, sa halip na chlorine siya, pag naging siyang anion, magiging siyang chloride. And then we have cation. So, ito naman daw yung itsura ni cation. So, cation are positively charged ion that contains more protons than electrons. So, example niyan is sodium ion, Na+, and ammonium or NH4+. Ito si ating sodium ion. In naming monoatomic cations, simply add ion to the name of the element. So, paglalagyan daw natin siya ng pangalan, for example, si sodium, pag naging siyang ion, lalagyan lang natin ng ion sa dulo. Magiging siyang sodium ion. Nakita natin kanina that atoms and ions differ because of their charge. Ano naman yung nagiging effect nito sa mga properties nila? So, let us look at an example. So, we have here sodium. So, at elemental state, siya ay nag-a-occur as sodium metal. So, ito siya. However, kapag naging siyang cation, nagiging siyang component of table salt. Nagiging siyang edible. So, napakalaki ng difference nila in terms ng kanilang properties. Another is chlorine. So, si chlorine in its elemental form, it occurs as yellowish-green gas that can irritate the lungs and can be toxic. So, ganito yung kanyang itsura. However, kapag naging siyang ion, specifically, an ion, which is chlorine minus. So, kapag naging siyang chlorine minus, pwede na siyang maging component ni table salt. So, napakalaki ng changes niya. From a toxic gas, nagiging siyang edible na component ni table salt. So, yun yung nagiging effect when an atom becomes an ion. Nagkakaroon ng very huge change sa kanyang properties. Lastly, we will discuss the three main categories of chemical bonding, namely ionic bonding, covalent bonding, and metallic bonding. So, iisa-isahin natin yan, starting with ionic bonding. So, when we say ionic bonding, there is a transfer of electron from one species to another, wherein one substance loses an electron to become a cation, while the other gains an electron to become an anion. So, para mas madaling tandaan, it is formed between a metal and a non-metal. So, yung metal mo, siya yung maglo-loss ng electron, while yung non-metal, siya naman yung tatanggap ng electron. So, let us look at the illustration. We will look at the ionic bonding between sodium and chlorine to form salt. So, si sodium, siya yung iyong metal. Ang mangyayari, siya yung maglo-lose ng electron. So, ang mangyayari, magiging siyang positively charged. And then, yung electron na yun, matatransfer ngayon siya kay chlorine. So, your chlorine will be negatively charged. And then, yung mga positively charged and negatively charged ions mo, magre-rearrange siya into a crystal form or lattice. Mag-a-arrange sila ng ganito yung itsura. Kaya mapapansin natin yung ating table salt, siya ay merong mga crystals. We also have covalent bonding. Kung kanina sa ionic bonding, there is a transfer of electron, ano naman kaya yung sa covalent bonding? So, in covalent bonding, there is the sharing of electron. And when two atoms of the same kind bond, neither of them wants to lose or gain electron. For example, daw meron tayong chlorine. Dahil made up siya ng same element, ayaw daw mag-lose ng electron ng kahit sino dun sa dalawang atoms. So, ang gagawin nila, they will share their electron. And usually daw, yung covalent bonding is found between two nonmetals. So kanina sa ionic bonding between a metal and a nonmetal, si covalent bonding naman, it is between two nonmetals. So we have water as an example. Water has hydrogen and oxygen, which are both nonmetals. At dahil pareho silang nonmetals, ayaw nilang magbigayan ng electron. So instead, ang gagawin nila, they will share their electron. So si oxygen, isi-share niya yung electron niya with hydrogen. And si hydrogen, isi-share din niya yung electron niya with oxygen. So ang mangyayari, magka-perform sila ng covalent bond. Lastly, we have metallic bonding. So kung kanina, si ionic bonding, it is between nonmetal and metal. Si covalent bonding between two nonmetals. Si metallic bonding naman is between metals. So sabi niya, in metallic bonding, atoms are also arranged in a lattice, but positively and negatively charged species do not alternate. Kanina sa ionic bonding, makikita natin na yung positive and negative charge ay nag-alternate. Sa metallic bonding, meron ka ding positive and negative, pero hindi sila nag-alternate. Paano yung kanilang arrangement? Sabi niya, there is a presence of positively charged core and electrons that move around freely throughout the array. Paano yung kanyang itsura? So, ganito daw. Yung mga positively charged niya, nag-a-align. And then, yung negative charge, nagpo-flow siya freely dun sa mga spaces. And yung mga electrons na yan, yung mga moving electrons, yun yung nagkakos ng electricity. That ends our discussion. So, to practice what we've learned, let us answer these review questions. So, for part 1, it is about properties of matter and changes in matter. Part A, instruction. Determine whether the property is extensive, meaning affected by the amount of substance, or intensive, which is not affected by the amount of substance. So, we have 5 items. So, pause the video muna and try to answer on your own. These are the correct answers. Did you get them? For part B, we will determine whether the change is physical or chemical. So, we also have 5 items. So, try answering first before looking at the correct answers. These are the correct answers. Did you get them? So, for part 2, it is about element representation. Write the proper element representation of the following. So, we also have 5 items. Try to answer it on your own before looking at the correct answers. These are the correct answers. Did you get them? So that ends our review questions. So for the references, the following are used.